Jai Hind, Jai Bharat, and welcome to Dev Talks. This is Aadi. Pakistan's army faces a huge challenge, and no, it's not just Imran Khan. It's a challenge that probably the Pakistani army is not seen within itself for a long, long time. Little sliver of it came out in the late 70s, early 70s, and late 70s, but beyond that, the army has not seen this. What is happening is a trust deficit between the people and the army. Will the army be able to live up to its promise to its people? And to discuss this very, very deep issue, I have with me Lieutenant General Syed Hasnain. Sir, good afternoon. Thank you so much for taking out time, sir. This is going to be one interesting talk. Especially, I'm very excited about this. So, thank you so much for this.
Good afternoon, Jahan, to all our viewers.
Sir, let's begin with a very, very simple question. Pakistani army has had the culture of control for this is well known. So it's not something which is there. They have controlled the country. What are the major points in time where they've actually built up this sort of a culture of politics within itself, of hard-lined approach towards one person, soft-line approach towards ये जो this whole ये जो culture इन लोगों ने create किया है सर, ये कब कब हुआ? When did it happen, sir?
Thank you. Very interesting question to start with. And it reminds you of the fact that, after all, the Pakistan army and the Indian army came from one stock. They came from the British Indian Army, and which had a history, in an organized role. It had a history of the better part of almost 3 centuries, two and a half to 3 centuries. So, how did the Pakistan army go different ways in a different way, and the Indian army developed differently? Well, let's have a look at the broad waypoints from 1947 onwards when it happened. 47, 48, everyone knows. We went to war immediately. It was not the organized Pakistan army which went to war. It was the tribals who came to war. The Pakistan army leadership was there, of course, which ultimately became a rogue leadership later on. They were there. And from 48, 49 onwards till 1958, it had a checkered rise. A reorganization had to take place. It had received a lot of assets from India, funding, etc. So it was reputed to be a very, very professionally and highly rated army, disciplined to a great extent. Almost everything is similar to the Indian army. But it just happened that in 1958, by 1958, in 10 years' time, they had the people were getting fed up because somehow the government of Pakistan couldn't get its act together. The leadership did not seem to have got settled, unlike India. Everyone was watching India. Here, the leadership was settled. You had the recruits, talent with you available. A lot of people went away. I don't think a lot of people realized that there was a thing called Pakistan which had really come up. I'm reminded of that very famous story, if you remember. I think we've spoken about it before also, that the person who was appointed as the Chief Justice of the Pakistan Supreme Court thought that he would like to function from Delhi. Why should he go? Why? He says ये तो कल की बात है, ये तो सब कुछ तो वापस आने वाला है. Nothing is going to change here. So he said he would rather stay in Delhi and function from there. No one believed this. This aspect that Pakistan was born and going to be a permanent state. Similarly, the Pakistan army, they never probably thought initially that this is a permanent change and that there's going to be an army by itself. There was a coterie of officers, and this is something which has been a part of their history. Radical, extremist in their ideas and views, very, very religious, some of them. These are the people who actually guided the destiny of the Pakistan army right in the beginning. Ayub Khan was not a radical. I won't call him a radical. In 1958, when he came to power by overthrowing the civilian government at that time, ultimately became a field marshal himself. He was a whiskey drinking, you know, very, very evolved kind of a Muslim, and nothing radical about him at all. But as you go along, you realize that the Pakistan army started getting radicalized. 65, they lost the war. No, I mean, it was a stalemate, and somehow they created this idea that as if the Pakistan army was much superior to the Indian army, which had lost the war to the Chinese in 1962. Uh, it created a humbug. They created something for the rest of the nation as if a huge victory had been gained. Deluging themselves. This was always a part of Pakistani army's culture, deluding themselves or something like that. And 71, they lost badly. But 71, even today, if you speak to senior Pakistan army officers of that time and even of today, they will tell you they never lost the war.
Yeah.
हम नहीं हारे. You all deceived us. It is the
Politicians.
Bengalis who deceived us. वो मुक्ति बहनी की मदद लेकर आप लड़ाई जीत गए, तो ये कोई लड़ाई थोड़ी जीतना होता है. I mean, just for them it was as if they had won the war. They said, देखो वेस्ट में क्या हुआ था. So this is a habit that the Pakistan army has created for itself. Deluding itself all the time. We are the best. And this is the reason why they came out of this defeat so quickly. You really find this kind of a thing happening, where you
Yeah.
find that in 6 years' time, the Pakistan army was back to where they were. Those 6 years, 5, 6 years when Bhutto was ruling, it looked as if they've gone into a bit of a shell, etc. But as soon as the nuclear test took place in 1974, the Pokhran test took place in 74, once again they got an opportunity to tell everyone, and they came back with a bang.
Hmm.
And this time they realized that to rule the roost, they needed to use the faith ideology. That would ensure that Pakistan remained united. After all, Islam was the unifier. And that's how the Pakistan army got radicalized. Ziaul Haq used that armed corps officer, modern, again a whiskey drinking officer. But slowly, slowly, all this went behind. And you found that in the Afghanistan conflict, they got in themselves involved, uh, very, very deeply involved into that hybrid ways of war. It was not an upfront war. After all, Afghanistan was not an upfront war. It was a war of different means. It was one of the very first hybrid wars of that kind, modern hybrid wars. And they got tremendously experienced. And that is what they used against us in 1989 to launch the war in Afghanistan. They're tremendously experienced in all these things. Very good conflict initiators. Very, very good
Hmm.
conflict initiators. They can deceive anyone, they can get the better of anyone at the beginning. But one of the worst terminators. They have no idea how to finish a situation, a battle. Cannot remain in a position of strength. Somehow they by some means or the other they mess it up at the end. And this has happened invariably. If you see 1965, 1971, it's happened in Kargil. It's happened everywhere. So in 2611 also, for example. So you see, without thinking through something, this is a typical characteristic of the culture of the Pakistan army. Without thinking through the launch, sometimes it can be to great advantage, where the initial impact that you make may just carry you through, but in most opportunities you will find that that will not happen. And today, of course, they continue to rule the roost by being in the backdrop. And the last point on this very important aspect is they know how to make money, right? Money is something which attracts the Pakistan Army Officer Cadre hugely, and they've done very well in the United Nations operations. Let me tell you, as much as the Indian Army has done, they are respected in the United Nations for their professionalism, as much as our army officers are respected out there. But at the end of the day, the manner in which the Pakistani looks at money, perhaps no the soldier looks at it. It's part of his character, and this has been their bane, perhaps, and it has upset their overall capabilities because they tend to start looking at that aspect more than their professionalism. And more on this as we go along.
May I comment on this, sir, with respect? You've mentioned something very interesting today, and we've spoken about Pakistan many times. This is an aspect which is coming out today. There are two small things. One, you've said they begin very strong, and they're not able to follow through, and that's something we see in that country itself. If you see their history, they've begun strong. I mean, had a decent economy, they had stuff going for itself, they had good Western support, all that stuff. But look where they are today. That's one point. And secondly, with regards to the money part of it, which is interesting to me that you brought out the money part as a mindset, because that tells you that they consider themselves above the rest of this, जनता in Pakistan. कि यार तुम लोग ठीक है हो, we are. So that's a
No.
very interesting mindset that you brought about, sir. I
Let me
hope I'm
comment.
I'm, I'm correct.
Yes, let me comment very briefly on both these aspects. The first aspect, uh, there is no doubt, there seem to be always a institution which is in a hurry. So
Hmm.
when your success doesn't has not come your way easily, you want to try and achieve this very very quickly. 47, 48. They launched initially. They did make an impact of getting inside, etc., and then the whole thing just went away from under them. And 65 similarly, they used. They always thought of the people's domain. They always thought that the people will rise in favor of them, that the people in Jammu and Kashmir will rise in their favor. It never happened in 47, 48. It never happened in 65. 71 was a different ball game.
War
89,
altogether.
yes, people did rise up, but they could not. They could not sort of sustain this. Too much of a hurry. But and the second part of the aspect of their mindset um, involving money, yes, it's a superiority complex which is existing, and that I think comes from the typical uh, West Punjab, the Punjabi stock, the leadership, which comes from there. Although they have had many Muhajirs who have led the Pakistan army, let me tell you, but somehow it is the culture of Western Punjab which has come there. Very feudalistic, deeply involved in very very class conscious, very deeply involved in riches and creating wealth and things like that. These are things which did not come naturally to us in the Indian army.
Hmm.
Here the Indian army was perhaps first of all much more diverse. It is not just from one region or something, much more diverse. That has helped the Indian army. The diversity has helped the Indian army tremendously. And of course, being apolitical has been the biggest advantage that the Indian army has had over the Pakistan army.
Sir, I've spoken to many army, and I'm specifically talking about the army because the Air Force and Navy interaction with Pakistani soldiers is Pakistani officers is much lesser. Uh, every general officer that I've spoken to has had a small story about some Pakistani officer he met somewhere, and how he found that officer to have a very different thinking, a very different thought process, a very different way of looking at things. Some of them were straight lined, and I've just with the sheer factor of speaking to so many people, some are straight line, but everybody said one thing: yeah, banda theek hai, lekin thoda kahin gadbad hota hai unke andar. Something is wrong somewhere. What
Very,
is your
very,
your
very good way of describing that would be, you see, if you speak to anyone who has attended these courses of instruction in the UK, in United States, etc., you will always find that in a particular course, if there's an officer from Pakistan Army, there's an officer from the Indian Army, the Pakistan Army officer will have a long, huge car. The Indian Army officer will have a small little car. Like he's not upset. He only wants transportation, no show off, nothing else.
Hmm,
Right? He
hmm,
just wants his transportation, nothing else. This is very typical. Now, when I was doing the Royal College of Defence Studies program in London, I had a very good friend. He became a very good friend of mine from Pakistan Army. But I tell you, the obsession he had with materialism, maybe not he himself, but his family. There was, I mean, every tour that we went on, he was the man who was most involved with shopping, because he had a shopping
hmm.
list that long which had to be carried home. And at the end of the whole course, I was coming away with two suitcases with which I had gone to London. But my colleague from Pakistan was coming back with a container load. Materialism is very, very strong in the Pakistan army. So this is something that we are not obsessed with in India.
Now that's a very interesting thing. So, how about personal interactions with them? Do they actually kind of appreciate where they are as a country, or do they still carry that, that thing that they always portray, the upper nose sort of a thing? And you call the
I've
British
had
stiff upper lip. I call them stiffer nose actually.
I've had a lot of interaction with Pakistan Army officers because of track two, right? And for the better part of 7 years after retirement, I was on a regular track two circuit, meeting them very, very regularly on the table and off the table. Of course, our conversations on and off the table were diametrically opposite, right? Off the table, they were very, very friendly and very forthcoming with us, but on the table they would challenge us and do everything possible, right? uh, I would call them professionally very sound, and senior levels itself, good good articulation, excellent English, and things like that. All the charm, all the smartness which goes with a rank, higher ranks. They're diplomats of very high order. Of course, the Pakistan Army officers themselves, a lot of them get opportunities to serve abroad extensively. So obviously they are much more exposed to that kind of a culture, diplomatic culture, and things like that. So all this, there is no doubt about their professionalism. I have no doubts about it. I've seen them opposite in Kashmir on the line of control. There's so many places. I would only say that perhaps one of the things which was very, very noticeable is that their availability with their frontline troops was not to that extent which you find in the Indian army.
Oh, they're
uh,
the proper subs.
yes, they stay back, they expect their JCOs and the NCOs etc. to stay on the more difficult posts. In our case, the more difficult the post, we will make sure that an officer goes there,
Also, there's
because it requires more leadership. For example, winter cutoff posts. The winter cutoff posts are very uncomfortable posts all along the line of control, both in Kargil, Ladakh, or in Kashmir, and each of these sectors has got a few of such posts. We prepare our officers. See, if you a young officer normally will be with the men on a winter cutoff post, which means 6 months he's gone, he's just there, nothing else. You don't find this kind of a thing among them. In winter cutoff posts, which are opposite each other many times, you don't find the presence of officers in Pakistan at all. So frontline leadership, little questionable. Although 71, all those who were in operations do swear by the fact that the display of valor was something which was not missing in the Pakistan army. No. You see, after all, Arun Khetrapal's action, if you read about it, etc., there were matching elements of valor which were there on both sides. But by and large, as a rule, uh, I don't think the Pakistan Army officer cadre likes to make itself uncomfortable as far as possible, while the Indian Army officer cadre will voluntarily make itself uncomfortable.
everybody wants to wear that, what high altitude badge today, and that's
Yes,
something which
it's
is done.
Siachen, the Siachen medal.
Siachen badge
For
and
me, the Siachen medal is more important than my UYSM or any other medal that I have got. It's the most important because I
I've,
served with
yeah,
troops there, commanded there, and
absolutely,
things like that. It's something different.
absolutely. I've met young army officers, sir, who will say, "Sir, so and so, so and so. I've served in Siachen." He'll be make sure that he brings it up in the conversation, saying,
Self esteem, very high self esteem because of that. If you've been with the men, you've been there, you've done what the men do, your self esteem will always be very high.
much higher, and obviously have a lot of respect. Which brings me to the kachra today, sir. And if I may, I have no qualms against Imran Khan or for Imran Khan or for the, of course, Pakistani army. There are loads of qualms, but here is a man, so who's done something that a lot of people tried to do, and he's taken that step a little too far. A lot of people will say, if you read what Aisha Siddiqa says, she kind of hints at this particular thing. Uh, Having said that, I think there are few people within the army who say, "यार ये ठीक कर रहा है, हमारा थोड़ा ज्यादा हो गया, ये ठीक कर रहा है. Let's support him. Let's kind of prop him up there." Why is this? Is there a realization within the army saying, "यार ये चलेगा नहीं, we're not sustainable"?
You see, with greater transparency of the world, the internet, with social media and things, obviously awareness within Pakistan, the Pakistan army, its ranks, rank and file, everyone is aware of the kind of strides which the world is making. And while Pakistan has been left behind, in the past, they were quite comfortable with the fact that they themselves were rich, while down below there was squalor all around. But with transparency, things have happened. They look at India on the other side and see how India has progressed. You see the commentaries which are coming about the Honorable Prime Minister Narendra Modi, that we wish he would be the leader of Pakistan, and things that obviously everyone is observing the quality of life which is changing, not among the elite but among the rank and file of the people down below. So it has had its effect. Societal effect will take place with a thing like that, and perhaps the Pakistan Army officer cadre itself realizes that the leadership so far, the political leadership of the PPP or the PML Nawaz, etc., have let down the nation completely. And then, so when they got this opportunity to support Imran Khan, and General Bajwa took it upon themselves as an initiative, it was a very welcome thing. And Imran Khan came virtually like a hero in the beginning, full support of the Pakistan Army and things like that. It's after that they didn't know how to take it beyond. The moment Imran Khan started stepping on their toes, there were lots of things which the Pakistan Army was used to, which Imran Khan wanted to perhaps take away from them. And that started making them uncomfortable, at least some of them uncomfortable. And then, of course, it became very personalized. This whole issue of removing Asam Munir as the DG ISI, of favoring Fayaz Hamid after that, and then the fallout with the General Bajwa himself, because Bajwa expected that automatically he'll get a uh, extension and things like that, but his extension itself was kept hanging. I mean, as if it was like a sop in front of him, which was kept hanging. So Bajwa was an intelligent man, and Bajwa, to my mind, I personally felt Bajwa was fairly pro peace. I won't call him pro India. He was pro peace. He realized what the fallacy of trying to challenge India was, and that Pakistan was only taking itself up the gum tree, if nothing else, by continuing to compete with China, with India in this particular manner. And through his 6 years, he kept making efforts here and there. Obviously, he couldn't upfront, as the Pakistan Army chief, couldn't say that let's look at complete peace. But he was for it. Imran Khan was not. Now, this was where the difference came in at that time. Imran Khan was not. Imran Khan thought that, a more radical thinking, a little more. He thought that would be the way, because if you remember, he just stepped in and came in with a majority, not a very strong majority as such. He
A
wanted
forced
to
majority. Sorry.
perpetuate his own success. To do that, he needed to carry a message which he thought would make him very popular. The typical populist message of radicalism, anti-blasphemy and this, that, rather blasphemy, not anti-blasphemy, blasphemy and things like that. That is the kind of thing that he would be looking at. So, at the end of the day, when Imran Khan turned rogue, the Pakistan Army didn't know how to really handle him. And there were elements within who felt, no, give him a chance. He's doing well. He may probably be able to help recover. After all, he was the one who was making dashes all over the place, although he fell out with Saudi Arabia very, very badly, and because of which the loans didn't come their way initially. But still, within the Pakistan Army, people felt that Imran Khan, given the fact of his personality, his leadership, the fact that he had won the World Cup in 1992 from a position of utter weakness, They were, I mean, 1992. I still remember the World Cup, and it was a very very bad situation where India had already defeated the Pakistanis at that time, and then they went and won the cup. So a lot of things of Imran's personality appeal to people within the Pakistan army, and that's why this division has taken place. A lot of people are claiming today that things are back to normal and Asim Munir is in complete control and the Pakistan army is unified. I don't think so. These kind of things don't disappear in 4 weeks, 6 weeks, 8 weeks. This is something which has impacted the Pakistan army as an institution, and probably will last for quite some time.
Asim Munir is in control, fair enough, but things aren't back to normal. I think, that's a punchline for it. So, but there's one thing I don't understand. You created a monster, and then you call the monster. Then you let it run rampage across the country, and then you vilify him, break him, this, that, evo, and everything like that. And this is bang in the open. Nobody's such a fool ki pata hi nahi ho raha kya ho raha hai and all that stuff. They lost half the country. They left their soldiers in Kargil. They lied to the country, and which is pretty well evident today about 65. They also themselves, yeah, we've not won anything. 47, the dreams of Kashmir gone. Kashmir, nothing. How come the Pakistani army has been able to keep that aura of this thing? Why have they not been vilified and thrown out, sort of a thing? If a politician would have done that, he would have been hung 16 times by now.
That's a question which has troubled my mind tremendously too. When I wrote a recent article in the media, which went quite viral everywhere, this is the one thing which I questioned, to which I didn't find an answer myself. That is that after losing half the nation, as you very correctly say, in 71, uh, and having kept the nation in a state of uh, turmoil all these years, having lost the competition with its main rival as India, in economic terms, after having had a great head start. If you remember, in the 60s, the economy of Pakistan was far, far superior to that of India. Having all that, how come the Pakistan army has continued to remain popular in Pakistan? See, one of the prime reasons perhaps I could put my finger to is the fact that Pakistan has simply lacked a political leadership. There's no one of stature. I mean, Bhutto came. Bhutto perhaps was one guy who could have carried on and achieved some level of greatness within Pakistan, perhaps. I'm not sure. But he lasted 6 years, 5 years.
Five
And
years.
after that, he was overthrown and hung to death. Otherwise, if you look at it, who has been a leader in Pakistan? No one of any substance. Nawaz Sharif is a businessman from Punjab, and I'm not sure how he even shared a space internationally with leaders of substance anywhere. Benazir Bhutto, yes, she had the education, she had the articulation, she had the personality, etc., but not the capability. Once again, and she came back repeatedly, never completed a term like all prime ministers in Pakistan, kept coming back, and each of those terms was hardly a success at all. It was more the glamour of her personality which kept her going, nothing more. So it was. I mean, once Zia died, who has been there? Has been either Benazir or there's been Nawaz Sharif, and
Nawaz
in between
Sharif.
some forgettable prime ministers. Otherwise, there's been no leadership at all. And in the absence of that kind of availability of a leadership of tall leaders, etc., you find the Pakistan army stepping into that vacuum which has been there. In India, look at the kind of leaders you've had. I mean, regionally, every region of India has had hugely tall leaders. And many of them come to Delhi, and at Delhi at the central level, they've risen to to very high stature. This is the difference. Why has the Indian army been apolitical? Because the Indian political leadership has been high quality, and the Indian army never ever felt the necessity, or it's not a part of our culture. But the culture developed in Pakistan because of the requirements, perhaps. And that's the reason why the people kept going back to the army, or kept looking at the army to deliver them from this evil as far as the political leaders were concerned. That's the only reason what I can think of. But today, there is virtual exasperation. Post COVID, particularly post the climate change issues, the floods which have happened, the number of internally displaced people who have come out, this whole issue of the street turbulence, the takeover of the Islamabad, the entrance to Islamabad, the streets of Lahore, the streets of Rawalpindi and Karachi by different elements of the Pakistan mafia. All this has left people in a state of despair, actually. When I spoke to some of senior army officers on track 2, many of them off the table admitted that even they feel, as senior army officers retired and living a retired life, they feel threatened. They feel threatened by some people who exist in the street there. So perhaps this
Wow.
needs a much deeper analysis by someone who's a psychoanalyst or something like that to really look at, or a sociologist, etc., to look at the Pakistan civil military relationship. I'm not sure much has been written on it. Someone like Aisha Siddiqa is brilliant. She's very good at this kind of a thing. I've met her so many times, discussed so many times with her, questioned her so many times, and always a pleasure receiving her responses. She's the kind of person who can perhaps give you better answers.
I'm sorry, but your answers put in so many more questions in my head. I was thinking of one and then the second, third. It's quite a funny thing that you have a country and a politician. And I'm going to talk at a very philosophical level, sir. Before these are two questions I have, and the first one is a bit of a philosophical thing. You have a set of politicians in a country that know their future. I will cross a line and I will be hung, just like my brother, my sister, my uncle, my auntie. But all of them still angle for that top job in Pakistan. Imran Khan went through the whole grind and he was ground to the ground. I mean, ground to dust. He still wants to become the prime minister again. What is in that chair that they want to fight the almighty in Pakistan, Pakistani army? What is in that chair, sir?
Hey, Adi, this is a natural human instinct. I wouldn't make this a Pakistani characteristic. It's a natural human instinct where there are some people who have that tendency, the propensity to take a risk and look at positions of power. Lots of, I mean, in a set of 100 people, you will find 2 or 3 people who will emerge with this kind of a characteristic.
Hmm.
Can take a risk, get into it, and think that they've got it in them to be able to take the problem by its neck and be able to lead in front. Imran is one of those. He's done it in cricket, right? Right. He's done it in the form of creating the PTI. I mean, it's not an easy job putting
Mhm.
together a new party and taking it to where it has gone. The Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf party is, after all, 1996 was when it was created. Just out of the blue, it came up, and it used to win one seat, half a seat somewhere or something. Out of the blue in 2018, see that he's been able to get it together. So obviously, a sense of self-confidence has come in him, and no doubt he's a very pleasant personality. You are blessed by God with all these things: pleasant personality, a fair amount of money, a good sense of articulation, reasonable amount of education, and already on a pedestal where the public is looking at you as a, the leader in India and Pakistan. You know what cricket is all about. So it's as if you are naturally made for leadership, and that is what probably brought Imran Khan to this situation. Whether he is ultimately capable or not, whether he's allowed, I'm not quite certain whether Imran Khan was permitted to function the way he wanted to function. That's one of the reasons why he came to, grief with the Pakistan army. But because the Pakistan army wants to make sure that economy and national security affairs are in his hands, right? And this is something which Imran Khan wanted to have it in his hands. So obviously, there was no sense of compromise on this. No one wanted to compromise on this. This the Pakistan army was clear, and Bajwa was a strong personality. It's after all with Bajwa that this whole thing started. He's a very
Hmm.
strong personality. So uh, at the end of the day, whether Imran Khan goes, you will find someone else coming in, and there will be enough contenders. Shah Mahmud Qureshi is waiting in the wings, right? And I can
Jahangir
tell you,
Tera.
Shah Mahmud Qureshi. I remember in 2611 the kind of blood was boiling at that time. I still remember. I was commanding the Baramulla division, deeply involved with counter-terror operations, and you can imagine the kind of sentiments one has when you're functioning in command of troops in a city area like that. And here was the Pakistan foreign minister making statements saying, कि हमारे दो टक्के का जवाब है ये आपके लिए. That's what he said to India.
Yeah.
ये हमारा 2% का जवाब है आपके लिए. So people like him will always have the ambition to come back and take charge and perhaps think that he can get the better of the Pakistan army.
Ray of hope. That's a. I mean, anyways. Uh, so Munir Saab today finds himself into a place where I don't think any other general found himself. Even the guy who, you know, after they lost Bangladesh, I don't think that the following chiefs and the ISI guys and the so-called establishment of Pakistan found themselves in a position like they have today. I mean, one is the social pressure, the social media, the memes, the Instagram, the tick, as they say, TikToker lage hue hain hamare piche, and that's a very powerful thing in their minds, and they're facing a challenge in that sense. Do you think this guy has it in him to kind of, one, the question is, is there a possibility that this thing will settle down? And do you think this guy has it in him to kind of try and get some semblance of sense of whatever the chaos that Pakistan is used to come back to that chaos and just chalo yaar abhi aage chalte hain?
Well, reports which are coming in so far, Adi, do indicate that Asim Munir seems to be in charge and getting stronger by the day. And given a couple of months, you're going to find a change of command of a couple of corps, and corps in Pakistan are like field armies in India. So out of the 9 corps commanders, I think 4 or 5 are changing. Here he'll have the opportunity to put his own men into those command positions. Uh, Obviously, the handling of the Lahore case uh, it needs to be analyzed to understand what exactly is the personality of Asim Munir. Perhaps uh, he went to Lahore immediately after what had happened, after the mob had come inside and ransacked the house or whatever happened, and he took Sainik Sammelans. I'm told a couple of Sainik Sammelans were taken to the troops. That's what a good Indian Army general would do the moment you find a situation in which you see the army is being seen to be failing in its duties. Immediately get to the troops, have a Sainik Sammelan, speak to them, take a couple of questions from people, and leave an impact with your personality. And Asan
Hmm.
Muni does not have that personality, of course. He's not blessed with that kind of personality, which Bajwa probably had, or even Rahil Sharif before him had. But he seemed to be touching the right points. He's done the right thing by going there, removing the corps commander from command, speaking to the troops, and then getting a semblance of order going. Putting a man in charge who's probably his own man out there, and sending a strong message with that. Obviously, at the moment, he has the full backing of the government, which is a big plus for him.
Yeah.
Remember,
Yeah.
the PD, I mean, this Pakistan Democratic Movement, both the parties, the PPP and the PML, the Pakistan Muslim League, both of them are completely backing him, right? And sections of the clergy, etc., are with them. So, to that extent, it is helping him to regain command and control, so to say. Although there is definitely within the Pakistan army some rumblings against this. It will need a very strong personality. A lot of people felt that Fayaz Hamid perhaps was one person who could have connived in this entire thing with the backing of Imran Khan. But the government and Asam Munir have gone and cut Imran Khan's wings completely. And Faiz Hamid, I don't know where he is exactly. I'm told he's gone abroad or something like that. So he's not there, perhaps. Otherwise, if he was in the middle of all this, by now he would have definitely got arrested. Right. Uh, so potential leadership, potential people who could around whom these things could build up have obviously been removed. They may not have been eliminated, but they have been removed definitely. And slowly Asam Munir seems to be regaining that command and control. Now, in a situation like this, every day's one small success adds up to your confidence. There's no doubt about it. When you are in a very challenging environment, uh, particularly a military situation where you find one success today, one success tomorrow, one success the day after, these are small successes, but they build up to become a big success in your mind. It gives you that confidence. I think Asam Munir is gaining that kind of a confidence. In the beginning, he was very, very shaky. I mean, the first few speeches of him which I heard, I was quite surprised. This guy is the Pakistan Army chief. Pakistan Army chiefs are known to be very robust characters, yeah, who
Mm.
speak with a tremendous amount of confidence and things like that. That is not their part of his personality. But
Yeah.
obviously, he's developing. And therefore, to the final part to answer your question, I think he's in control at the moment. Let's give him a couple of weeks more. If nothing major happens to rock the boat, I think Asam Munir would have taken the situation through.
The question that I asked, sir, in the little thumbnail design that I made, all this good, sir. Last question for the afternoon. Before that, guys, this is going to be the big one, huh? So just brace yourselves for this. Please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and please spread this video. Let this thing go, because this is something which, again, a lot of Pakistanis are going to be talking about. The last time we did, there was a debate that started up within a few Pakistanis, and I did get to know about it. So that's interesting. So, will Pakistan itself, the people of Pakistan, trust their army again, sir?
See, even before I answer your question, one of the great things about your program, your channel, is the fact that a lot of people across the border are tuning into it, listening to you. I've not seen too many other programs or channels which are being heard by people because it's because we are you and your commentators here are using a very positive kind of a line in the approach and analysis, keeping it professional. And that's how we should do it if you really want to get the measure of the situation. So your question is a very, very important question. The points, the response really starts from the fact: has the Pakistan army lost some of its attraction?
Fair enough.
Has there been a dilution in its stature? Has there been a dilution in the perception in which it is held by the Pakistani people? To all those questions, I will say definitely. There has been a dilution, a compromise, because of transparency, because of the social media and the environment in which people are looking around the world and seeing things develop. Why can't the Pakistani have the same kind of facilities, the same kind of uh, you know
Opportunities.
availability and the quality of life, etc., as the neighborhood,
Yeah.
as the neighborhood, which is right next door, a nation, in their perception, a nation, India, which was very, very weak some years ago, right?
Inferior, yeah.
So, and their entire confidence was on their army, and they felt that any disunity, any aspect of things going astray in Pakistan, etc. The Pakistan army was always there. Hum hai na, it's the way the Indian army always
Mm.
says. Hum hai
Mm.
na, we are there at the end of the day. Pakistan army similarly had that kind of a perception among the people. But I think a lot is being said today on social media. A lot is being said transparently over the internet and over electronic media. And one of the things which I must mention here is the fact that what really surprises me is the manner in which in Pakistan the media remains so free. You kind of commentaries you find people writing.
Writing,
I
yes, sir.
saw
Written media.
Zahid Hussein's commentary the other day.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
see
yeah.
Pervez Hood Boy,
Good boy.
his commentaries from time to time. I mean, it's
Absolutely.
unimaginable that in a situation in which you are living virtually under a dictatorship, you find that the media is so open and is talking. So that's
The
all of the
written
credit
media, absolutely, sir.
the
Absolutely.
credit of Pakistan completely. So, with all this, there is a tremendous communication which has reached the people of Pakistan that all is not good with the organization that they have been looking up to for so many years, right?
Hmm.
Uh, I think the two elements, the mullah and the military, both are now, after many years in Pakistan, getting vilified to some extent. How far will this go? Is a question I can't really answer, but it has started. It has started. And as you find, Pakistan does not have that kind of penetration of perhaps the internet on smartphones and things like that. I'm not very certain, but I don't think it's down in the rural areas to that extent as
Hmm.
it is in India. But as 5G comes in, as greater penetration of technology takes place in Pakistan, etc., and people are much more aware of things, they will start questioning. And the Pakistan army will have to come up and give the right answers. If they don't have the answers, and that it is becoming very evident that they are the puppets, they are the masters behind the strings, they are the ones who are holding the strings of the puppets, then the Pakistan public is going to look at the Pakistan army in a very different way. And that that trust which you're talking about, that trust is going to erode much more. It's already eroded to some extent,
Hmm.
but it will erode much more then. The time is now when of course, everything will depend on when the elections will be held. The government seems very confident that give them 6 months and perhaps they'll be able to turn the situation around to some extent that the people of Pakistan will vote them back. Now that's completely that's foolhardiness because in 6 months nothing is going to change in Pakistan. But obviously till the time the elections are held, this game is going to carry on and it's a question of how much the Pakistan Army chief can take control. He's not going to step in. They're not going to carry out a coup d'etat. They will not take charge. He does not want to be blamed for Pakistan's ills and failures, etc. Let that be left to the politicians to handle, right? They will still continue to remain behind and hope like hell that they can hold the strings in their hands again. How much that they can hold their strings for how much longer will depend on how the Pakistan public perceives them in the near future.
I must say that's an excellent answer, sir, because this is a question that plagues me. Um, I'll read Dawn and I wonder that is this really Dawn or is this somewhere somebody sitting outside a dissident or something like that writing?
Exactly. Exactly.
Sometimes you really wonder what why is he writing this? I
That's why
mean,
very courageous people, these people who are writing all this, I mean, the Pakistani media, the journalists, this whole string of intellectuals and Pakistan's civil society can be very strong if it is allowed to be
in
strong. If
sometimes,
you
yes, sir.
remember in
When it
1968,
needs
they
to, yeah.
virtually overthrew Ayub Khan that time, right? It's a very strong intellectual civil society. If it, but they have eroded its
Yeah,
capability.
value.
They have not
Yes.
allowed it to flourish at all.
And that's the most amazing thing to me. It's not that the Pakistanis are completely unaware of where they are, but there is that set of Pakistanis that have this messiah complex, and there's something that we've discussed previously that they want this one guy to sort themselves out. And
Correct.
even the most balanced people at the end of it, I have seen come down to that one factor. And it really wonders, yeah, this you were talking sense. And I've watched Aisha Siddiqa, I've watched Hood Boy Saab talking. Of course, Aisha Siddiqa I found to be, I think, one of the smartest Pakistanis
That's one of the
I've heard.
best, no doubt.
But even Hoot Boy comes back down to that, यार कोई आना चाहिए जिसको एक strong leader निकले. They've got that messiah thing that हमारी problem आप देखो and we will, he also had that
Correct.
thing. And I said, यार,
Absolutely. You must listen
spoke
to
deep.
Zahid Hussain sometimes. I've
I
met
have.
Zahid Hussain a number of times. Very, very good again. Right from the dawn.
So that's what they speak well for 45 minutes. 47th minute they'll mention this. And I lose respect right there. ऐसे यार ये फिर वही बात कर रहे हैं. Aisha Siddiqa somewhere around the line has had a balanced perspective for a long time. And she's not that anti anything. She
Yeah.
still has a lot of access within the army, funnily speaking. I don't know how they
I think we should
tolerate her.
start our question and answer because I think
Yes, sir.
otherwise we overshoot our time.
No, we've got lots of questions, sir. First and foremost, Ravi Sahab, thank you so much for joining in as a YouTube member. That's nice to have you on here. SN question: Plot ya Pakistan? Okay, that's something, sir, I came up with about 2 weeks ago. I said that the generals need to ask themselves whether they want plot ya Pakistan. So, should India secretly offer the Pakistani army a cash deal and a safe passage to foreign lands against relinquishing their interest in POK-GB?
I think you're taking my words a little too literally when I said that the West Punjab leadership, which exists in the Pakistan army to a great extent, is very material minded, etc., and would perhaps be looking always for money. No, I don't think your question is correct or your thinking is correct. At the end of the day, the Pakistan army is a nationalist force. Remember that. Right? As much as the Indian army is a nationalist force in India, here the Pakistan army is a nationalist force. When it comes to national interest, when it comes to national interest means territory, territorial interests. I don't think there is much of a compromise that the Pakistan army leadership or anyone will want to make. There can be compromises on many other things, but not on territory, ever.
So this is a three-part thing. Just it's an interesting comment to me because this is the popular narrative within Pakistan. And I'd like you to kind of comment on this. Atul says, General, with respect, that's a misplaced notion. Khan is not out. It's the army that's on a back foot.
Yeah.
More the army fires after Pakistan, after the people, more people will rally behind Imran Khan. It is a misplaced strategy by the Pakistani generals. And thirdly, he says, wiser strategies to announce elections. Don't see why Pakistani army is jittery and scared to announce the elections. Now,
Very good set of questions.
yeah,
Very well put together. The last part, I don't think the Pakistan army is jittery about announcing elections as much as the Pakistan political leadership at the moment.
political leadership. Yes, sir.
Which is more scared. Pakistan army itself also is. I mean, they're not participating in the elections, but they are concerned about the popularity of Imran Khan. That's what they're concerned about.
Mhm.
But can you just switch back to the first two questions, Adi?
Absolutely, sir. I can.
I just like to see. Yeah,
So he says, with respect, that's a misplaced notion that Imran Khan is out. Imran Khan is not out. It's the army
no,
that is on a back foot.
I agree with you. Imran Khan is not out. You see, groundswell in a situation such as this is very, very difficult to discern.
Yeah.
Suddenly, out of the blue, things change. One minor incident, for example, I mean, let's take it from the examples from the world. What happened in Tunisia is the
Oh,
is
yeah.
the is the death of a fruit vendor, a suicide committed by self-immolation by a fruit vendor who had been beaten up by the local police. That led to Tunisia's Arab Spring.
Spring.
Small incident of that kind can lead to it, right? So therefore, I will not rule it out. And Imran Khan is still popular, very much popular. The more they are sort of needling him and trying to take away his support base and this, that, the more popular he is becoming
That's what he
among the
says in the
people.
second part, sir.
It's an artificial thing that the Pakistan army and the current PDM leadership thinks that by taking apart his support base, physical aspect of Asma Jahangir and people like that with him, and that he will wilt. No, I don't think so. When a man has reached this point, he realizes that it's just a question of pushing a little more. And
Just a
that's what
little more.
Imran Khan is looking to do. That's why I said the next 2 3 months are very, very crucial. No decision on elections is going to take place in these 2 3 months. Let me tell you, right? Of course, the Pakistan Supreme Court is the judiciary is with Imran Khan. That's a saving grace for Imran Khan to a great extent. But Pakistan itself is in disarray with the executive and the judiciary completely at poles apart from each other. It's the Pakistan army which is the glue at the moment holding all this together. And that's why it's being able to sort of, take that, develop its own narratives. But as I said, incidents can take place. Now, which side is the clergy? Which side are the radicals? Are they with Imran Khan, or is there still a radical element within the Pakistan army? It's with the Pakistan army separately. Well, one doesn't know. One doesn't know at this time. It's a developing situation which is needs to be looked at on an almost everyday basis. Read the Dawn. The Dawn gives you tremendous inputs. I'm virtually like an advertisement for Dawn myself. It gives you tremendous inputs, and listen to some of the other discussions which take place on Pakistan television. Some of them can be very humorous, and some of them can be very informative at the same time.
Yes, sir. He says, as you pointed out of the box in the beginning, Pakistani army does, the thought process is very good, but it never has an exit plan. Why or how a professional army not plan the end game of their operations? Is this the lack of accountability?
As I said earlier, also when this issue we were discussing, Adi and myself, it was my contention was that it's an army which is in a hurry. It's an army which has lacked success. It has never seen success till today. Is there an occasion in which the Pakistan army has succeeded? No. All the waypoints I put for you from 1947 till 2020, 21, 22, nowhere has the Pakistan army succeeded. Perhaps one place where they succeeded was Pakistan intelligence succeeded was in Afghanistan. That is in conjunction with the Americans and the Saudi Arabians and things like that. That's one thing where they succeeded. But when it comes in general with India or otherwise, they have just not succeeded. Their economy has failed. In every other way, Pakistan has been a virtually a failing state. Now, when you find you are a part of such an organization, you always look for success in a hurry. And that is the bane, as I said earlier, that they get into it, they make a good plan, they get into it, they don't think through it. They say, oh, I made an entry, I've gotten a break-in. In the army, we call it a break-in operation. I've got the break-in. You've broken into it, right? The actual success does not come in from break-in. The actual success comes after the dogfight and what is called the breakout. When
Breakout.
you break out and you expand into your different torrents going on the other side of the obstacle, that is what brings you success. The Pakistan army plans till the bridgehead. They plan till the bridgehead, a good break-in, surprise. That is their strongest point. Intelligence and surprise, right? They come out with classic plans. They come out with hugely risk-based kind of plans which are put together by them. Something which as an honorary commander in the Indian Army, I would say, no, yeah, this can't happen. Which is why I remember that after Kargil, the Indian Army got obsessed with one thing, and this is one from a humorous angle. The Indian Army got obsessed with one thing. Every other day you got up, you were assessing for a couple of months, where will Kargil 2 take place? Where will Kargil 3 take place? And every commander was looking at his own area and saying, kahin yahan na ho jaye, kahin yahan na ho jaye. Because he said, these chaps are capable of taking such risk, leading to such huge casualties, even among themselves. So this is the problem. When you're in a hurry for success, you take too much risk. You think you are achieving something, but actually you're deluding yourself.
I mean, that's very interesting, sir. Very, very interesting, I must say. Gaurav asks, in one interview, Parvez Musharraf has said that even if they get Kashmir, then also a small conflict will always be there with India because of differences of ideology. Your views?
Yes, I tend to agree with that. I tend to agree with that. A lot of people say Kashmir is a political issue. Yes, a political issue, definitely, which the Pakistanis made into an ideological issue. In many ways, the Pakistanis made it into an ideological issue with what they did with the the program against the Kashmiri Pandits, etc., the change of the ideological control and hold over the various mosques and madrasas of the valley. It all became an ideological issue at that time. So even if Kashmir was resolved, I'm not saying the Pervez Musharraf could have said that if they get Kashmir, if they had got hold of Kashmir violently, if they had defeated India and got hold of Kashmir violently, I can assure you this would be a 1,000-year war, right? Because the Indians, you think India would be sitting with its wearing its bangles? They would fight back to make sure you get everything. See what happened in Kargil. You lost ground in the beginning. Which army in the world would have gone to the extent of putting in those assaults at 17, 18,000 to get that land back?
Yeah.
527 soldiers died doing it. Not many armies in the world can do that kind of thing. That's
Absolutely.
what the Indian army did, and the Pakistanis themselves admitted it. कहते आप तो पागल हो आप लोग जिस तरह से आपने कराई है, right? So I mean, that's a humbug that Pervez Musharraf would have ever felt that they would have got hold of Kashmir. I would reframe the question and say that Pervez Musharraf probably felt that if Kashmir had got resolved in favor of whoever, maybe the 4-point formula or whatever it was, or it went to India or whatever. If it went to India, the Pakistanis would not forget it and they would launch a 1,000-year war. So ultimately, it's a question of if a compromise formula with international mediation, etc., was done, which is also wishful thinking, because there's a whole Shimla agreement which says that clearly that there cannot be a mediation.
Bilateral
So the
issue.
question itself is a bit hypothetical, but to get the idea clear, it's important to consider this fact that yes, this issue is beyond just being a political issue; it is an ideological issue. And the differences between Pakistan and India are definitely ideological. And I don't think peace would have prevailed between India and Pakistan.
Kumar asks, why is Parvez Hootboy either not assassinated or in jail? He's even criticizing Mr. Jinnah.
If you
That's
remember, Mr. Hoodboy kept saying in the middle, I hope I'm not arrested. I can be arrested. He didn't say, I hope I'm not. He
anytime. Yeah.
kept on saying, insisting, and throughout the interview, he kept saying, I can be arrested for this. I can be arrested for this. He was quite certain that something may very well happen with him. Uh, I think there are some personalities who are
They want
big,
to.
big personalities. The owner of Geo News and people like that. And these are fairly big personalities. While you can't put it past the Pakistan army, they have hung the Prime Minister of Pakistan on all kinds of charges, right? And today are doing business with the Bilal Bhutto, his grandson, right?
Mhm.
So you can't put it past the Pakistan army that something like this can happen and someone can disappear. So if you think that your question is not wrong in any way, uh, the chances of his something happening to him are very much there. But then I must, as I said in the beginning, the Pakistan media is very, very strong, strong-willed. It's a popular media. And I think one of the other things which needs to be kept in mind today is after the FATF, I think the international control over Pakistan's internal actions has gone up to a fair degree
Yeah.
because they are in a very miserable position
Sorry.
economically, and they cannot afford to do things of this nature, which internationally will bounce back on them. That's a saving grace for people in the media, etc., who are talking today against the Pakistan army. If their economic situation had been good, if they had, let's say, even 30 billion or 40 billion US dollars in their foreign exchange reserves, perhaps the Pakistan army would have been behaving quite differently. But with $4 billion and $5 billion, perhaps they can't afford to do it.
Last one, sir. It's a comment which I leave it to you to assess. Imran Khan has over 90% of Pakistani backing, and if Imran Khan touched it will blow back.
Well, that's a
Yeah, there's sorry, continuation. My apologies, sir. He says if there will be a free poll held in Pakistan about the popularity of the Pakistani army today, overwhelming majority hated the army.
I'm not sure that hatred exists in the army. I think we are at a situation of a being on a cusp. We are on a cusp, virtually, where it could be 50-50. Where a very large segment of the people who supported the Pakistan army in earlier years now don't do so. May not have hatred, but they don't do so.
Mm.
There is a strong element within the public which definitely dislikes the Pakistan army. And there is a very large public which likes Imran Khan. There's no doubt about it. This is the situation. And as I said, as we go along, we will see. If, for example, this current government, supported by the Pakistan army, in the next 6 months, though I don't think it's possible, but next 6 months, can turn the economic situation around to some extent, bring in back some investments from abroad, etc. Uh, I do very strongly feel that the relations with the United States are definitely back on the mend. Lots of things are being underwritten. The United States is now facilitating the IMF loan. It is also advising the UAE and Saudi Arabia to open up their coffers to assist Pakistan. A lot is happening on that front. And definitely, the Americans are looking at this opportunity perhaps to support this government in a potentially in a future election, or at least till the situation, internationally, the world order is in a better semblance than what it is at the moment. You've seen that, after all, Pakistan is the one nation which has opened up its ammunition depots and everything for the Americans to take everything from here to Ukraine. Missiles, guided bombs, and all kinds of things have gone from here. All this has happened at a cost. And obviously, a part of the economy is being underwritten quietly uh, by the Western world, because the interests are very deep rooted here. After all, this is access to Central Asia. This is the area next to Iran. This is the area which is the northwest Indian Ocean area, the Arabian Sea, which is the crucial area through which all the oil of the world flows, all the container traffic of the economy of the world depends on the northwest Arabian Sea, Indian Ocean area. So the Americans have got everything going for themselves, right? So to bring it, round it off together, all together, I don't think the Pakistan army popularity may be low, but I'm not sure that they will want to sort of work against the Pakistan army. The Western world will definitely will support the Pakistan army to a very great extent. I always like to tell people that if you line up an Indian army officer and a Pakistani army officer in a foreign course together, most of the people from the American armed forces who make a beeline inside will first shake hands with the Pakistan army officer. They
Yeah,
won't
that
shake
yeah,
hands with the Indian army officer. I've experienced it many times. You see, their relationship is strong. It
much
goes back
older.
to goes back to Cento, Cito, and things like that. And they're absolutely, and they've been doing courses for years together and understanding each other very, very well.
Thank you, sir. This was quite an eye opener. As a matter of fact, the trust factor of it that you've explained, I've made some notes in which is going to, if nothing else, trouble me for the whole evening to think about what you've actually said, because it's an evolving situation, as you very rightly brought out, and I think it's something that we will need to keep a track of for next some time. So it's always a pleasure talking to you
Thank you
about
very much. Thank you
Pakistani
so
army.
much. And I will look forward to having one more interaction very much in the near future as we go
Yes,
along. Thank you.
absolutely.
Jai Hind to
Till
all
then,
our
sir.
viewers.
Jai Hind.